Anne-Sophie. I'm the founder of She's a Changemaker, which in my heart is going to, I know is going to grow into a global media and training empire. My vision is to contribute to liberating women's voices and have women and girls feel completely safe, having the desires that they have, being who they are, and creating what they want to create. So part of that change is how you can use your words to shape your reality and rescript what you see and who you are. And as we're launching the She's a Changemaker Show podcast on March 14th next week, we have some amazing guests already who have recorded interviews and who are going to share their own stories in depth at that time. But I thought it'd be super fun to bring in two of them today here to talk about how you can actually rescript your reality. So I'm gonna just give a brief intro, and then each one of you can introduce yourself. And essentially what we'll do is I'll just ask you guys, you girls, you ladies, some questions, and we'll just chit chat. So Ashley, first of all, I'm going to put you on the screen. Let's see, there we go. So this is Ashley Wise. She's the founder of Soul Girls, and she has her sights set on impacting, is it 5? How many people do you want to impact with your work, girls? It was 5 million? Oh, I think you froze. Can you hear me?
Did you hear me? 5 million girls by 2020.
5 million girls by 2020. So, big goal, big ambition, and you're well on your way to getting there. So Ashley will tell us more about Soul Girls in just a moment, and just, what you're doing and how that impact's going to come to terms. But yeah, it's super inspiring, and I feel absolutely blessed that we've been able to connect automatically through the way that women do. Kasha Rashval, she's a dear friend and co-creator, collaborator, but also a really brilliant intuitive artist and healer. She is so tapped in and tuned in to what Source is channeling for all of us, and channels artwork to send messages, but there's so much more to that. So, maybe Kasha, you can give us a quick intro about what you're expanding into.
For sure. Thanks for those kind words. It's fun to be here with you. So I love to help women slay old stories, like old toxic stories that live in our bodies, and really, it's like they put a footprint on us of old trauma and drama that either we experience in this lifetime or we bring in with us from past incarnations. And so through my healing work and through working with the Akashic Records and also the intuitive art that I do, I help remove that imprint of those old stories and really allow the women to step into like massive emotional freedom, clarity, and also a lot more fun in their life and their personal life and work.
Fun is where it's at. Thank you so much. And and Ashley, maybe you can give your own little intro, because you're all about fun too. I mean, in fact, so your business is called Soul Girls, and every time you have the chance to say, "This is so awesome, I'm so glad," it's always SOLE everything when you post, which I so love.
It's true. It makes it a little bit more fun, right? But Soul Girls essentially is empowerment for girls ages 8 to 12, and this really started from a very personal place of really looking for community and support, and using physical activity to kind of balance out my own mental health. And what we created was a program for girls to also train for their first 5-kilometer fun run and use their bodies. Use their bodies in a way to also balance their mental health, but to make stronger friendships and have fun being physically active more than anything.
Yeah, because it can be so challenging, especially as you become a teenager or tweenager, to actually stay really connected to your body and feel, that love connection first. So I love that you do that. And also for the grown-ups who are listening, you do have some leadership training for adults, right?
Yeah, so what we noticed is we really focus on girls ages 8 to 12, but what we noticed is that adults have not been doing this work either, talking about values and sisterhood connection, mind-body connection, and we're going through the same issues as adults as we were as kids, just kind of transformed in a different way.
Yeah.
And what's really cool is, so we've created Lead Hership, which is really for people who want to impact girls. Mm-hmm. And I think I call it like the skills beyond the skills. So it's not just about coaching a sport so much as how do we connect. and really mentor younger girls.
Yeah, awesome. And so speaking of younger girls, what I'm going to do just here to kickstart the conversation is share. Can you, let's see, share this wonderful young woman's words. Can you see the quote on your screens?
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah, so this is, I can't say her last name super well, but Malala Yousafzai's, I'm not gonna, anyway, but I mostly want to focus on the fact that she's a woman who really, a young woman who really was voiceless at one point, and she always knew the importance of her voice. And, you know, so by saying when the whole world is silent, even one voice becomes powerful. And this is so true when your whole entire world is silent, when you are silent to yourself, well, you will be silent to everyone else. And so it's so important to actually speak up. And yeah, I guess I apparently really like this quote because I got it twice here for us. When the whole world is silent, even one voice becomes powerful. So that's the thing, is, you know, about understanding and finding the power of your own voice and using it to shift and reshape your own story. And so for those of you who may not know her story, she is a schoolgirl who was attacked in a while ago now, but almost died. I think she suffered a gunshot wound to her head, and in the end, you know, has become now a recipient of so many awards. I'm having I think it's the Nobel Peace Prize. I believe that she received it. I should have really written down the facts because I knew them 5 minutes ago. So, you know, let's just get back to us here, and is a story, and how do we reshift it? So Ashley, we were just talking about women and girls and how they are not necessarily doing the work. So before they come to you, like, what is the kind of story that they're telling themselves? And then what's the story they might say when it's all done afterwards?
Yeah, so we have two different stories, and one is, you know, as kids, I think we deal a lot with physical activity, so specifically more about running, but I have girls ages 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 saying, I'm not a runner. I'm not a runner. And I'm like, what do you mean you're not a runner? You have legs, you can walk.
Yeah. You just cut
almost
out. Sorry, I lost.
What a runner should look.
I lost you for a second. So you said you're not a runner, you have legs, you can walk. Like, if you have legs, basically you have to become a runner because you are. Is that?
Yeah, running is just a natural movement for our bodies. So it's really interesting how, as a young child, you can already say, I'm not this.
Mm-hmm.
And this becomes a story as we become older, and it's like, oh, I'm not good enough, I'm not strong enough, I'm not fast enough, or whatever it is, enough.
Yeah.
And this becomes a story.
Yeah.
And with adults, I see the same thing. I see the same stories happening with almost exactly the same wording, except for we don't have our parents in the background perpetuating that story. When we're kids, we really just have an open mind still about the stories we're getting, like, reinforced at home. If we tell our parents, I'm not a runner, they're like, okay, yeah, cool. No, my daughter's not a runner. And respecting the boundaries, but at the same time reinforcing them.
Yeah, that's so interesting, right? Like, there's that, so we have our own story, what we tell ourselves, and then there's the story that the world tells us and what we perpetuate. So Kasha, maybe can you talk about this a little bit and how you've seen that pan out in your own experience too, like as a mother, and also with your own story. I know that there's been some dynamics of how you've had to rescript your own reality around showing up for yourself and motherhood. So, I mean, how do you then take whatever story is showing up for you or your kids and start to rescript it in your experience?
Yeah, it's a really big, wide question. And what I find through you know, the studying I've done and just even my own experience, our stories live in our body. And movement is one great way to do it. To help move through them. You know, if anyone has ever had a massage, and when the masseuse is working on a particular part of your body, you might find you get really emotional. It's because that emotion is coming out. And so everything we've ever experienced, and even some things that we maybe brought in with us when we incarnated, still lives in our physical body. And so there's ways that you can rescript your story by consciously choosing to invite those emotions out. Sort of an unwanted invitation is sometimes when you get emotionally triggered. Can you still hear me?
Yes, I can. I'm just taking notes in the chat window so people can see.
Are you able to hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Thumbs.
Sorry, I totally lost the screen for a minute there, so I wasn't sure what was going on. But when you're emotionally triggered, that's an invitation from an old story to revisit it, whether it's anger or sadness or whatever that is. Really tuning into that emotion, naming it, and really feeling the physical sensation of it in your body and asking it what it needs. It'll tell you. And what it wants is what it didn't get in the very beginning when that story first happened, whether it was traumatic or just drama, it doesn't matter. In that moment, when you were little, when that happened, you didn't receive the support, the love, the encouragement that you needed. You can give that to yourself now whenever you get emotionally triggered. And that at its basic is how we begin to rescript our life.
Yeah, I love that. It's really around the fact that your stories are stored in your body and in your emotional, and basically it's not just physical, it's not just mind, it's not just emotion, it's a combination of everything. So the first step to the rescripting is sort of almost like you're looking at your paper going, oh, okay, this is what's going on at all these levels, and you accept it to reframe it. Is
exactly
capture it? Yeah. And okay, so one thing actually I want to maybe ask Ashley first. For me, I know that in my family, like there's a story that happened about 100 years ago when my grandmother, basically, like there was a traumatic event, like her dad came home from the war with one leg instead of two, and she said, "You're not my dad. My dad had two legs," and so he probably had PTSD, and then he parented her very distantly and didn't acknowledge things. And so that story of you don't speak up for what you want, you don't feel your emotions, you basically, behave the way your parents tell you to. That story kind of stayed in my family for a very long time and perpetuated. So that relationship of one small event, had the dad said, you're just a young girl, don't worry, or, just loved her through it, would have been different. So do you have cases in Soul Girls, in the way that you've seen parents and children come in, where you see that there's a power dynamic, or there might be holding on to something that's really old, and what do you do in a situation like that if you see that? Like, how do you support somebody to first of all accept that they're maybe denying this old story and how it's holding them back?
Yeah, I think everybody has a story, but what we do at Soul Girls is not so focused so much on what the story is, so much as who we are right now, and that has to do with building more of a foundational level. So understanding that I have value, understanding who I am and how I relate to others. So typically, what we see is not dealing with those back end stories, and there's very few people. And amazing people who are willing to go back that far and deal with that stuff, but also having to show up right now where we are and still deal with life, right? And how we react. I love what Kasia said it too. It's those reactions, right? At the current moment, how we're reacting to anything that comes up. With kids, it can be really about anxiety about friendships or fitting in. It could be parental. With adults, it can be financial, or it could be anything, really. It really doesn't, those are kind of the main stressors.
Mm-hmm.
How to deal with those different power dynamics is really just understanding and having values, and kind of coming back to that, okay, how can I support you? What do you need? Do we need me to listen? Can I stay open-minded? And just letting that person go through whatever it is that they need to go through.
Yeah, I love that. So part of it is you're saying use your silence to listen, to give space, and also just be really very present. Just be in that now. Yeah. Kasia, I'd love if you could maybe share a time, like maybe define for me if there's anything else around what is a story in your mind, and is there a story that you've changed? Like you've consciously said, that this old story is like the old pair of jeans that used to fit me, but I really don't like them anymore. I'm throwing it out. Okay, is there an example that you could give us of a story you've changed, and a glimpse of the process you would use for yourself, and knowing everybody has different processes, but a process that you think could work in this case?
For sure. Gosh, I have so many stories. I feel like I came here to change stories. Like that's that's my personal soul mission in this lifetime. I think the biggest one for me personally has been around just my own self-worth and my own sense of belonging as a human being who's alive on the earth. There was a time not that long ago when I really hated being alive and suffered a lot of depression and a lot of triggers, all kinds of things because of that. But I fought really hard, and that's what sort of brought me to this work, and why I've always just been willing and courageous to dig in and look in the dark places, the places where the beginnings of that story could have lived. I don't know why I came in with that story. It's nothing that happened to me in this lifetime. Like I had a fairly normal childhood, other than just moving around a lot, but there was nothing ever super traumatic as far as trauma goes going on. But I just found myself, depressed a lot of the times and suicidal sometimes, especially after my children were born. I suffered from postpartum really bad and just I couldn't crawl out from underneath that rock. And I wasn't willing to just give up. I always kept going and asked a lot of questions and got a lot of different certifications and trainings and things like that, because I needed to understand why I was so unhappy when I had so much to be happy about. That didn't add up for me. I have this amazing family, this amazing life. Why do I hate it so much, right? It didn't make sense to me. And so part of the process was asking different questions, like asking empowering questions instead of, why is this happening to me? Asking, I don't even remember what the question was that finally shifted, but just asking different questions that moved me forward instead of kept me stuck. And then really learning how to work with my physical body to release the chemicals of the emotion that lived inside me. And to this day, I don't know why I brought this story with me. Having done a lot of past life regression work and hypnotherapy work, and because I'm a trained hypnotherapist as well, and then now working with my Akashic records, a lot of it goes to before I was here as Kasha. And so I'm getting answers, but I think what I discovered along the way is it doesn't really matter where it started. Like you might get sort of an aha going, oh yeah, that explains why I do that or why I behave that way. But it doesn't really matter. What matters to me now is the relief and the fact that I think differently and I feel differently. I have a whole reverence, like a whole new reverence for life, especially my own, having realized that spirit and physical are two sides of the same coin. And really trying to escape the physical coin doesn't make sense because it's all the same thing.
Yeah. Yes.
Being able to just heal myself from that level of pain, like that's my biggest accomplishment, I think.
Yeah, and I'm so glad you have, learned to really shift that perspective. So thank you so much for sharing that story. And I want to highlight, for everyone, the shift, the perspective shift that happened was internal, it was physical, but it was also just that learning to reframe your question. So part of the work that I do, and I think that all three of us do here, is around catching the words that we speak. And if they're not actually feeling good, then we can change them. So, why do I feel like blah, like whatever? It could be like, well, instead, how can I feel more happy? Or it's the moving forward aspect of the work to really grow and expand into what we want, which is honestly, like with She's a Changemaker, the podcast, the Sister Mind that's coming in, the different work is around really expanding it into the version of ourselves that we are meant to be, the future that we're meant to build. And, this event was about rescripting your story, reinventing your reality, but it said, how can you reclaim the future you're meant to build? And it's about that remembering who you're meant to be, but you're not always being that person. It's like the past can be a little annoying, the whole like, I'm not a runner, but really I run, so yeah. So Ashley, maybe you can share a story too about a time, like a story that you've intentionally, consciously changed. You've shifted it completely.
Every day. Oh gosh. Even this morning, just having conversations about anxiety, believing, so I deal with anxiety, and this belief that I am anxious, versus that I'm dealing with constant like reverberage of that anxiety. So I guess the situation this morning was, a little bit personal, but I'm going to share it because I think probably people can relate. So this year, I've hired a team to help us at Soul Girls, and they're so supportive and so kind. I have the greatest people on my team. And we're coming to the end of the term, which in general, like usually after a 9-week program, I personally just have a lot of anxiety, like, oh my gosh, it's ending, and then the next one's starting, and a little bit of burnout, and it's kind of a cycle that I go through. And so recognizing that the other day it started, and I was like, okay, here it is. This is the anxiety. But in my mind, I was like, oh, well, you have a team this time, so you shouldn't be feeling these feelings, and you're not allowed to feel these feelings anymore because you're so supported. And I was, it was kind of like a new level of crazy, right?
Yeah, you're not allowed to feel these feelings because you have a team. Like, no, illegal feelings. You can't feel them.
I know, and it sounds so ridiculous, but at the same time, it was like, oh, well, you know what? They're actually still here. And, yes, I have so much support, and yes, they're so amazing. Like other things now that are causing that same cycle, and other things that are coming up. So there we go. I just had to reframe that. And it also took like, having my own coach as a sounding board and saying, okay, Ashley, let's think about this for a second. Because, I can play that story over and over in my mind. Saying it to somebody just sounds a little bit more ridiculous, and saying it to you guys, like, we can laugh about it. But in my mind, it was full on serious.
Yeah, totally. The moment is so real, and it's almost like time both stops and accelerates. But using your words to reframe what you're going through and remember where you're going is super helpful. Let me follow up with this question. Is there something in your current reality, like a script that's happening, a story that you just, you're kind of maybe going through the motion with? A plot line would be another way to look at it, that you'd like to just throw out. It doesn't have to be about you. It can just be about yourself, relationships, the world. Is there a script you would like to just shred?
I still get caught up in.
So for me.
Oh, well, wait, Kasha, go ahead, and then Ashley, think about that one, and we'll come back to you with that one.
Thank you.
I think my biggest one is I still get mad at being mad, or I still get mad at being sad, or I still get mad at overreacting. It's like that judgment of, here I go again. Why can't I just stop this? And it's annoying. I wish I could shred it, because if I could just not get mad about whatever emotion is coming up in the moment and just like be in that moment, it would just be easier, less judgment.
Yeah, totally. So it's like it's almost like what Ashley was saying around that. No, I'm not allowed to feel this feeling.
Exactly. Illegal feelings.
Illegal feelings. So you want to shred the feeling, like illegal feelings, basically.
Yes.
That has to be defined as to what we mean here. But what about you, Ashley? Is there something like a script, a current reality thing going on that you'd love to shred?
Every day, like so many. I love that, Kasha, you could just narrow it down to one.
You're like, oh, it's at the shopping list. Yeah. Oh, I lost you for a sec here.
Catch myself.
Can you take that with, like, I just lost you.
A lot of it has to do with like walking the talk. I'm a really big believer that, especially to be a role model, and being surrounded by so many kids, and also mentoring a lot of women to start their own businesses and stuff, I almost believe that I have to be perfect, or I have to be a certain way for them to see me in that way. But this Rescript is actually, I'm just human, and I still have emotions, and I'm still, going through all the things that the people go through.
Yeah. So that it's just remembering that you can do super amazing, soul awesome things, but you don't have to be Superwoman.
That's right.
you are Superwoman because you're like human, you know what I mean? Like you have these superpowers which are, you know, inside you, and just letting them out and being like, hey, cool, I'm human, just makes it so much easier.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, right, I was born into this earth. I'm human. True. Yeah. So, okay. So we've talked about, you know, shredding stories, which is, you know, it's funny because that phrase, what's a story you want to shred so you can rescript it? Like, I didn't even have that phrase before we showed up today. And it just showed up through our conversation, which highlights also the importance of actually using your voice to speak through what's bubbling up inside. Because sometimes the wisdom, the words, the clarity happens through. So that's a super powerful thing. And in fact, like, I want to call people who are watching live or replay that when they signed up, they will have received a 20-minute training that's how to use your voice to rescript your reality. And so they can use that and just try it out. It doesn't even require writing. It's just speaking, which is kind of fun. It's easy. It's kind of like runners. You can take your voice anywhere. Wait, so Kasha, let me just bounce back to you here. And I would like to take this conversation towards where we want to go, what we want to create, expand into, and see. So not necessarily what do you want to shred or take out of the world, but what is the script or the, you know, everything's possible vision that you see that you'd love to see happen in reality? Like, if you had to put it into words, maybe one way is either to describe what you see or think about it as a bit of a legacy soundbite. Like, if you could be the one who holds the pen for what you see in this world, what's happening?
Okay, I
Small
think I
question.
get it. You cut out there for a minute, so I'm just piecing together what you're saying.
I can repeat it if you'd like.
Sure.
Yeah, so essentially, if you're looking forward into the story of what's happening in your world, and you get to hold the pen as to, like, what is the story that's going to be unfolding in either on this planet or in your specific world around you, what do you want to bring about? What do you want to expand into? What do you see?
Okay. For me, the biggest thing is making sure that every woman feels safe to feel whatever she's feeling, especially from herself. And like my biggest forward motto is love more, not less. And for sort of sprinkling that around ourselves, but we have to douse ourselves in that the most. And it's like a daily minute by minute challenge to be in that present space of love for yourself. So really, like, if that's the legacy I could leave, I have to decide to do that every moment. Some days are much easier, and some days it's like, oh yeah, I'm doing great, I'm loving myself so much, and that allows me to then love everyone else that much more.
Mm-hmm.
So that feeling of safety inside yourselves to be who you are, love yourself more, not less, and then remember that you are whole. No one can give me enough for me to be whole. I already am. And life causes us to forget that. That constant love more, not less daily is like a daily dose of remembering. It's like taking your vitamin. It's like taking a shower. It's like eating a salad. It's something you choose over and over again. And so remembering to choose that, not like that adds up to epic life. It really does for everybody.
Yeah, I love it. So basically, like, I've taken a few notes while you talk. So it's like choosing love as being one of your main dishes that you're going to be eating every single day because it's important. Also, that you're already whole right now, feeling safe, being who you are consistently, feel all of your feelings, and love. From what you described, it's really being present to your whole self. It's, you know, not avoiding the feeling is actually the opposite of the love. So yeah,
that's right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that. So thank you so much for sharing that. Ashley, what about you? What's the sort of the vision that you're expanding into? You know, it can be even beyond Soul Girls, but if you're holding the pen on what's happening, what's unfolding it around you in your world, like, what story are you going to tell?
So many stories, but I think at the core of it is inclusivity and support. And what that means to me is supporting each other showing up for each other, and also being able to receive support. So, we often think that, we are superwomen. I can do it all by myself. I got this. Like, I should know by now. I'm an adult. But in reality, just actually receiving help and support and love is hugely amazing, and can be a really big game changer. And the story that we're
just losing you here. Sorry, you said the story that what? That we're.
Are we back? Am I back? The story that we're telling girls is when you know your core values and when you understand how that affects your friendships and the relationships you have, could be even at home, you can be really whoever you want to be, and that story can change, because everything will become way more powerful and feel good. It really just wants to feel good in their bodies. So when we create this like inclusivity and community, whether that comes through sisterhood or physical activity, that those are some really powerful tools.
Yeah, so inclusivity, supporting, and everybody deserves to feel supported, loved, and feel good today, now, in this moment. I think you cut out here for a second. Yeah, thank you so much. Okay, awesome. So to sum things up, like essentially we had just a very short discussion, but in this discussion we talked about, what do we believe to be true? Who are we here to be? What is the way we can show up for each other? What is the way we can show up for ourselves? How can we love more, not less? How can we be present? These are daily moments of choice. And with She's a Changemaker, that expansion I'm seeing is around, really helping women and girls also to declare what they choose to become, who they choose to become. And it's really a moment by moment, choice by choice unfolding of events that has to be connected with the reality you want to rescript and how you want to expand into this
there for a minute
future and new world. Did I cut out for a second? I heard. Sorry, I thought I cut out. So I want to invite everybody who's here again. Like this is video is going to stay up for anyone who wants to catch this live, or they're live here, or on the replay beyond today. But as a reminder that you can take ownership of your words, you can take ownership of your path and your story. You can just shred what's happening and choose to script something bigger and better and awesomer, and just start to step into it. And it's really about remembering the future you're here to build, remember who you're meant to be, and connecting with the women and other people who inspire you in your life, who help you stay on that path. And that it really does take a community, which is one of these moments where, today is International Women's Day, and I found it, I've always wanted to do something today to celebrate women's voices and stories, and this was it. This was the let's get started right now. And there could have been 1,000 reasons for me not to do it, but it's about choosing to show up for ourselves and for each other. So I would invite the audience, first of all, if you want to connect with Soul Girls in some way, you can go to soulgirls.com. There's a whole slew of events, mostly there's a lot in Canada, but also internationally at this point, right? Yeah.
Yes, Girls is so we run plus Kelowna starting in April, and we're going to be training for our big 5-kilometer fun run. So really connecting families and girls together, and boys and men are absolutely to get everybody together using our bodies, doing obstacles. It's called Soul Awesome. That's our big run at the end of May. Happening in Vancouver. And then we've also launched our license program. So we're in Australia already, and doing leadership trainings across Canada so that more women can really step into that leadership role and be role models and start their own programs in their own communities.
Yay, fantastic. Thank you so much. And so thank you so much, for spearheading that. And I know it requires you stepping into your bigger self, right, to do that. So thank you. So soulgirls. Did I say com? Isn't it org? It's org, right? Yeah, soulgirls.org. You can help Ashley impact 5 million girls and women by the year 2020, which is around the corner. So, it's a big goal, it's a big dream, and it does require a whole village to help you get there. And it really just starts with one the moment of, hey, I'm going to lace up my shoes and head outside and decide to be a better me today. So, which is so cool. Yeah. And Kasha, everybody can find you at, oh, Kasha, there you are.
I can barely hear you. I have no idea what you just, so if you were talking to me, I'm sorry. I totally missed it.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. Ashley, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, so it might just be on your end. So Kasha, where can people find you?
Best place is on my website, which is kasharashfal.com, and I might just have to spell that out for people in the comments below.
I'll put it in the chat window, actually. So
my name's a little unique, and or on Facebook, I'm there as well.
awesome. Thank you so much. And then Kasha and I actually co-lead a Facebook community that's called the Show Up, Trust, and Get Shit Done Tribe, where we are showing up for each other. We decided to co-create, collaborate, so we can serve more people in a bigger, awesomer way. Aside from that, you know, if you're here, I did put a link on the play page to schedule a Changemaker session if you want to talk about what's happening with your own story and how you need to rescript it, moving it forward, especially if you're a woman in business and you have this desire to expand into something bigger. You can click the big yellow button that's underneath the video, and just, you'll find some time in my calendar. We can have a short conversation to see like what stories you need to shred. What are some of your, I call them your inner Everests, those summits that, you know, are hard to summit, but if essentially you need to figure out who's your own inner Sherpa and how to get yourself up that hill and go do what you need to do. So you can schedule that there. And aside from that, yeah, the She's a Changemaker Show podcast is on its way. It is coming. The official launch, if you're watching this before March 14th, 2017, we are launching March 14th. The show is going to be live. All the details are going to be at she'sachangemaker.com. We are focusing on voice interviews to start with. There is going to be availability for all the interviews on YouTube as well over time. And I have probably 3 months of interviews already ready and lined up. So I really can't wait to share all of the wonderful women's stories and, you know, have women's voices inspire other women who maybe are not speaking up as much for themselves yet to fully own the power of their own voice and start to reclaim their reality and reclaim the future that they're here to build. So I'm gonna end it here. Do either one of you, is there anything else that came up that you didn't get a chance to mention? This is your 30-second of awesome soundbite moment that you get to have if you'd like one.
That was good. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for having me as well.
You're welcome. So thank you everyone for being here. And be sure to also send people to she'sachangemaker.com so they can get in and hear early on what's happening with our show, with our podcast, and the other ways that we have to help women really find and name their voice and their story. So thanks again, everyone. Thanks, Ashley, so much for being here and the work that you do. And we'll see you on the podcast. Of course, we have your episode that will be coming up. And Kasha, same here. So thank you so much for everything that you do. And I wish all of you who are here a happy International Women's Day 2017. If you're catching this on the replay, it can still be International Women's Day every single day. Women deserve to have their voice heard, and you deserve to have your voice heard. And I look forward to hearing your story very soon. Talk to you soon, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.